Hey guys, Noah here. Welcome back to another Python video. Today we're going to be going over some odds and ends, some little gaps that I just wanted to fill in from stuff in previous videos. And then next video is going to be our review session video where I'm just going to have like 4 questions going over everything that I went over just to really make sure that you guys got it. So have your idle open. Go watch the first video in this playlist. If you don't know how to download idle or how it works, I got a whole tutorial just for you. So let's get into it. So today I'm going to be talking about double if statements, loop accumulators with for loops, and then string slicing. I feel like strings are something I've talked the least about, but they're honestly the coolest because you can really write anything you want inside of them and do a lot of weird stuff with. But let's get into it. So double if statements. So they sound exactly how they're going to be. So I'm going to write a function. So for here I'm out, whenever I teach something, I'm going to put it inside of a function just so we can get used to putting in stuff with parameters and return statements just to really get comfortable with that topic. So we'll have a function that checks, we'll say check weather. We'll use my example. So then we're going to take in a temperature, and then we'll take in sunny, we'll call it. So I'm going to take in a temperature, and then I'm going to take in a Boolean value to say whether it's sunny or not. So we have a colon. So if temp, we'll say if it's greater than 70, because if it's not greater than 70, then I don't really care. So what double if statements allow us to do is just have 2 checks kind of back to back. So you can put as many as you want in a row. It's called a flag pattern. So I'm only going to do 2. So if temp is greater than 70 and if sunny. So sunny is going to be a Boolean value. So basically if sunny is assigned to true, so if sunny, if true, then it goes inside of here. And then we'll print. Actually, no, we're going to use return statements. So I'll have out is equal to, say no, we'll say an empty string. Remember, this is different than this. It's equal to none. This is not the same as this. This is an empty string versus something with no value at all. Then we'll say out would be equal to perfect weather. And then here we're going to have 2 else statements. So we'll have an else here, which is inside of this if statement. So it's only these 2 if statements, or this if and else statement. They're going to be grouped together. We'll say almost perfect. It's over 70, but it's not sunny. So say almost perfect. And now what I can do, gotta give you an equal sign, is I can have an else statement on this whole thing. So this if and else are combined, and then this if and else are combined. But this thing only happens if this first if statement is true. So it's an if statement inside of an if statement with a lot of else statements. So I'll also say out be equal to not good. Because if it's not over 70, then just not good. So then we're going to return our out. And then I'll copy and paste the name of this just so I don't. So we're going to print, we'll say that it's 78. We'll say true. It's got to be capital T, sorry guys. And then I'll just copy and paste this, and I'll just do so we hit every example. We'll say that it's not sunny. We'll say false. And then we'll say it's just below 70. We'll give it 60 out. I think that's what the weather is right now where I am. It's not fun. So look at that. So we take in 78 and true. So then we assign out equal to nothing because we're going to eventually give it some value. So our first check is if temp is greater than 70. So 78 is greater than 70, so it's true. So now we're inside of our if statement, which it's another if statement. So now it's if sunny. So true was assigned to sunny, so then sunny is true. So if true is true. Remember, that's like our perfect example of an if statement, something that always works. So then out is equal to perfect weather, And then obviously we don't get to this else statement because this if statement was true. And then we're not in this else statement either because this if statement was true. So we skip right over it. And then we return out. And then same thing for this guy. So now our temp is 78. So yep, we're inside of it. But then if sunny. So sunny is now false. So then we go to our else, and then our out is almost perfect. And obviously we don't get to this else because our if statement up here was true. And then finally, our temp being 60 and true. So if temp is 60 greater than 70, it's not. So then here's our else statement, and then we return out. Bam. So those are double if statements called the flag pattern. Normally you have like multiple in a row, but I'm only just going to do just double to keep it simple. So the next thing I want to do is a double, it's a for loop accumulator value. So I'm going to call something combine string, and it's going to take in some string value. So remember for our for loop, so we're going to say, well, this was actually going to be a list. So string, we'll call it list. So remember we have a for loop. So for, and I'm just going to call it I, in, and I want to get to the values of our list that we're taking in. So I can say in range of length, and if you remember, we use our brackets, but I also can just say this. So now I is going to be assigned to each thing in string list. So I'll write out what I'm going to be taking in, just so you guys can see it. So we'll say combine string of, and then we'll put in, we'll make a list. L and O. Wow, I just cannot spell hello. Cool. So we'll have an accumulator value outside. So what an accumulator value allows us to do is normally we can continue to add stuff to it. So we have to define it outside of the for loop, and it can either add numbers or it could add strings. So what it does is, so now for I in string list, and this would be A. I'll just print this out so you guys can see it. So for I in string list, so our string list is A. So I is going to be assigned to H, then it's going to repeat, then E, then L, then L, then O. So if we do out is equal to out plus I. So what this does, so out first starts off as nothing. Okay. And then after the first thing in the for loop, it's going to be equal to H. So then out is equal to nothing plus H. So then I'll just show it up here just to show what it's doing. So then H. Cool. And then now we're in the next spot. So then for I in string list, so now I is equal to E. So out is equal to out plus I. So out is equal to H now. So H plus I, or E, is E. And then I keep going on for the rest of the things. An easier way to do it is by simply just saying plus equals. This will accumulate the value of out. We can do the same things with numbers. We can say out plus equals 1. So now this thing will just count how many things are in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we don't want to do that. We want to accumulate the strings. So if we do that, and then if we return our out, you can see we get hello. But what if I wanted to see how long the list was? So obviously we know of our length function where we just say len and then in parentheses our list. That'll tell us how long it is. But what if it's something that's not always defined, or you just want to take the long way of doing it, for example? So if we set out equal to 0, and then out plus equals 1, we get 5. So it starts at 0, and then it's going to be out plus itself plus 1. So it'd be out, and then itself plus 1. So then it's 0 plus 1 for H. So then now out is equal to 1. And then if we go through the for loop again, we get out, okay, plus out. So we have 1 plus 1 is 2. And then it goes up by 1 every single time. So that's what an accumulator really does in Python. It allows you just to keep combining things up. But I think the best way to show it is definitely just doing it with strings. So you get to see it all laid out, all nice and nice. Because with integers, they just keep adding up into one line, but now you get to see the whole effect. And the last thing I have is something called string slicing. So I'm going to make another function. I'm just call it slice. Okay. And then it's going to take in some string value. Cool. So in Python, slicing the string means cutting it up. So if we have a string called hello, this is spot 0, the H, spot 1 is E, then 2, then 3, then 4. So if you remember indexes from list, strings have the same thing. So what we could do, so if we have our string, so I'll write one out just so we can have an example on hand. So we'll say slice, I'll print it. Print slice of, we'll call it Python. That's going to be our string that we're going to take into the function. So then string is equal to Python. So I can set a variable equal to this. And to be able to slice a string, we go from 0 to 3. So if you remember our indexes in our range, string of from 0 to 3 of Python, if we print this, is pyt. Why not pyth? 0, 1, 2, 3. The H is the third spot. If you remember from range, we go up to, but not include in the last index. So index 0 is P, 1 is Y, 2 is T, and although 3 is H, we're not going to include it. It's just going to be off on its own. It's the end thing. We don't actually touch it. So cool. So you can start it from anywhere. So from 1 to 3. And then you can start from nothing to 3. So if I have nothing to 3, by default, if you start with this colon, it's going to start from the very front of the string. And then if we have the other way around, if you start from 3 to the back, it's going to go to the very end of the string. So it's going to start at 0, 1, 2, 3, which is H, and it's going to go right to the end, right there. So yeah, so you have your start, your colon, your end, and then if you end with the colon, it's going to continue out the rest of the string. If you start with the colon, it's going to go from the start of the string all the way up until the index that you specify. And there's another pretty cool thing that you could do as well. So we'll say from 0 to 7 should be the whole, if we do 0 to 7, it'll be the whole string, because it's, yeah. There's 6 indexes, but obviously you have to go one further to get the whole thing. If we had another colon, and then we'll say 2, for example, so now this goes by every other letter. So we have here, and then it's going to skip this index and go bam, other one. Skip, bam, other one. It's going to skip this one, and then that's the end of the string. So now it's going to count by 2s. And you can do this really as many times as you want. You can do 4, but obviously you're not going to get much because it's not that long. We get P, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 4. The fourth one is O. So you get PO. So that's all I got for you guys in this video. There won't be a quiz here. You'll have plenty next video to be able to practice on. As always, if you're confused on anything, just leave a comment, join the Discord, ask questions. I'm more than willing to help. And as I said, next video is just going to be a complete review, just going over all the topics that I covered so far. Make sure you got it. As always, just ask as many questions as you guys want. I'll see you guys in the next video.